Remembering that you can always bend the knees, that this is really just about letting all the blood flow to the brain, all the blood just to rush into that face and increase the circulation. So we're trying to be here for 2 minutes because this is one of the things I talk about when I was talking about tests. I'm not testing the posture, I'm really testing or giving you the opportunity to feel this inversion, and it might give you an idea of how the rest of your practice will be. For me today, I can do this probably a shorter amount of time because of the altitude. So this is something that we have to start to understand within our body in each practice. On your next exhale, release the hands down towards the mat. Inhale, halfway lift with a long spine, fingertips on the ground or on the shins or on the thighs, wherever you are. Exhale, forward fold. Bend the knees. Relax the head, relax the shoulders, relax the neck, and slowly inhale and round and roll on up to a stand. Drawing the tailbone down, reaching those hands out wide, palms come together above you, and then exhale as the hands come down to the heart center. Inhale, the shoulders up to the ears, and round back and down. Straighten up those arms, slightly bend the knees, and let the palms be forward. Soften in the shoulders. And just take a moment here as you notice your own vibration. Noticing how you feel after that inversion. Some days you're going to feel like a rock star, and other days you might feel dizzy and nauseous. This is very normal. As we talked about, each day is a new day with inversions, right? So if you didn't eat enough, if you ate too much, if you didn't get enough sleep, if you were just on the plane, if you partied all night, if you're in higher elevation, all of those things can affect, right? Your hormones, menstrual, they can affect how you're feeling. If you're feeling a little dizzy and nauseous, that means when we do inversions in the hammock, go for a shorter amount of time. This is your clue, your clue into your practice today. If you just feel happy and groovy, then you can probably stay as long as you want. For most, they feel a little sweet, and chill, and groovy after that inversion as it calmed the mind, hold focus, increase the serotonin level. Go ahead and gently open the eyes. You feel a little bit groovy? Does anyone feel nauseous or dizzy? Yeah? Yeah, so like for 1 minute I felt like that when I came out. I was like, but you know, this is what we have to learn. I was like, woo, but I pulled out really fast, which means, sort of okay. Sometimes I go woo, it's like, whoa. Then it comes back, and I'm like, woo, and I pull back, right? It's not, I don't even know how to technically say that. I'm like, woo, do you feel woo? It's like, but that's something that you have to start to feel. So for beginning classes, I always start in a forward fold. It's one of the best ways that I can allow people to really take notice of where they're at for their practice, and hopefully be honest when we do inversions in the hammock. And I also do it for all my kids and teens classes, because they're all like, ah! And then they come in, and after they do this, they're like, yeah, whatever you want us to do. Yeah. If you're about to talk to a teenager, both of you forward fold for 2 minutes. If you're about to go into a meeting, forward fold for 2 minutes. If you're about to say something you don't want to say, forward fold for about 2 minutes. Great. So let's turn around, reach behind us, and we're going to grab onto that hammock. So I'll teach you a couple ways to do it. Well, first, what I'm going to do is have you like swim into it and bring the other arm in, so you're putting it on like a backpack. But kind of like swimming into it can be really nice. We'll talk a way of like swiveling it too. And we're going to start across, so bring it behind us into the upper rib cage. Pulling tension so you can feel it nice and tight into that rib cage. We're going to walk back to the back of our mat. Now you might feel a little bit more tension as you push your hands forward. Keep that tension by bending the knees and bringing your weight into the hammock, and then slowly walking forward. Yeah. Good, and then from here just drop those little booty and the hips and just let yourself hang and feel some traction. There's pressure in the ribs. That pressure is probably uncomfortable at the beginning, but that pressure is helping create tension. And it's helping lengthen the spine. So allow that to happen as you drop the hips, okay? Breathe into the opening of the spine. For those that have lower back pain, this is like their favorite.
That's right. I'm so glad
right
I
here
get this after sitting all day.
Chair, yeah. After the plane, like, ow. So now hips are in the center, feet at hip distance, flat feet. Straighten up the legs, draw the hips up. Root those feet nice and evenly into the floor. From here, if you have neck injuries right now, we're gonna keep the fingers interlaced behind the head. If you would like to, you can open your arms just above horizontal. Draw your shoulders back, flex your hands, draw your shoulder blades together, and then let yourself lay back. Keep the feet rooted, hips up, kneecaps raised, thighs active. Open the heart, open the chest. Arms circle the hands down to the thighs, and then reach the hands up for the hammock. Grab onto the hammock, bend the knees, let the hips drop, and then slowly rock forward and look forward. Stay in the breath here as you release that tension in the spine. If you feel like it's sliding down, we're going to work on how we can adjust it. Holding on tight, root those feet directly on the knees. Hold on, we're going to pull up and draw our shoulder blades together. Shoulder blades together. Good. And then lower the ribs back down. Wiggle those fingers. Inhale, pull the shoulder blades together again. Exhale, hold. Inhale, draw your shoulder blades together even more. Exhale, hold. Inhale, slowly lower. Wiggle those fingers. This is getting grip strength. It's great for arthritis and carpal tunnel. Little cat-cow action here. Now hips up on an inhale, push down through the feet. Now look at the knees, make sure they're over the ankles. Slight internal rotation of the thighs. Good. And then exhale, drop the hips down and then stick your tailbone back. Push on the hammock and draw your shoulders back and arch here. Good. Inhale, look forward, draw your hips up, draw your ribs in, elbows forward, chin in. Exhale, drop the hips. Stick the tailbone back. You can even shift forward a little bit. Push on the hammock, draw your shoulders back. Push on the hammock to get a deeper opening in the upper back. Inhale, hips up, look forward, elbows forward. Get those hips up, ribs in, squeeze the glutes. You should feel it in the upper hamstring and in the glutes. Exhale, drop the hips, arch back, push on the hammock. Inhale, look forward, hips up, straighten the legs, keep the hips up, open those arms just above horizontal, flex your fingers back, draw your shoulder blades together, lay back. Keep flexing, this will help calm the nervous system. Drawing the shoulder blades together strengthens the shoulder blades for our posture. Arms circle the hands down to the thighs, then reach up for the hammock, hold on tight, bend the knees, drop the hips, and then let yourself look forward as you rock forward and back. Deep inhale and exhale through the nose as you rock forward and back. On your next inhale, pull yourself on up on the movement forward. Exhale when you get to the top. What you're going to notice with aerial yoga is that you're going to find a lot of the benefits when you exit. Because there's this pressure, right, that's helping cause traction, it's compressing. It's compressing the blood flow at certain times too, which is actually a good thing. That compression, then, when it's released, has a big flush. So in the lymphatic system, this can be a nice cleanse and flush and actually help our immune system. But what we'll find is that when we come out of it, there's a little lightness that we might feel afterwards. So taking moments for people to find that stability. Yeah? Did anyone feel a little bit light when they came up?
Yes.
Yeah? Good. It's kind of nice too. Hanging on to the hammock, straighten up those arms. You're going to walk back to the back of the mat now. And then bend forward as the hammock slides over your head through the hands, and then stand back up. And make sure now that our thumb is on one side, the fingers are on another side. Yeah, so you should have your thumb on one side. So you don't want to have your whole wrist on the one side. You actually want to make sure that you can hold on to it too. Feet come into the center, feet are underneath our hips, palms are facing down, hands are at shoulder distance. So if they come together too much, you might have to slide them open. Inhale the tailbone back, exhale, reach forward, and let the head hang. All of the weight is on your feet. You want to keep the weight on your feet here. This is a wonderful shoulder opening. Arms are straight, energy out the fingertips. Relaxing of the neck, letting the weight of the head help open the shoulders. If this is too much on your shoulders, you can pull back by drawing the ribs in and actually continuing to lengthen, so you almost come up a little bit. If you would like to deepen it, you can drop your belly gently. You can also let the weight come forward a little bit, and this can also deepen into that shoulder stretch. Stay with the breath through the nose, helping warm up. We're going to do a cat-cow variation here. Bending of the knees slightly. Inhale, chin to chest, round and roll on up. Exhale, the shoulders around, back and down, tailbone back, and then reach on back out. Let the head hang. Bend the knees. Inhale, round, roll on up. Exhale, the shoulders around, back and down, tailbone back, reach on out. Now we're not going to go all the way up, just halfway up. Bend the knees, inhale, round, halfway up. And then exhale, reach on back out. Straighten the legs, drop the belly. This time look up at the hands. Bend the knees, chin to chest. Inhale, round, roll on up halfway. And then exhale, extend, reaching back out. Straighten the legs, drop the belly. Look at the hands. This is really great for your thyroid. Shift your weight back. Flex the feet onto the heels. Keep dropping the belly. Extending out the fingertips. Energy out the fingertips and the toes. This gets into the hamstring. Drop the toes. Bend the knees. Look down. Inhale, round, roll all the way up this time. Exhale, those shoulders around, back and down. Good. Taking a moment here. This is another time that people can feel a little bit light as the head was down and we had a deep opening in the shoulders. Those that sore stress in the shoulders, especially men, can find that to give them a little lightheaded. Let's try the other variations, a couple different variations. Let's do our palms together this time. So we're still in that wrist wrap. We just simply bring palms together. Feet are still in the center. Inhale the tailbone back. Exhale, reach on forward. Pushing between each fingertip so the energy of the hands is ignited, letting the head hang in between. Again, if you want to have less of a stretch, you can keep your ribs in and come up slightly. If you'd like to deepen the stretch, you can let the belly drop or even let some of your weight shift forward. Let's also bend the knees now, just slightly. And we're gonna have a little swing here. So we're gonna let our torso and hands swing to the right as we draw the left hip back. And then swing to the left as you draw your right hip back. Swing to the right, draw your left hip back. Swing to the left, draw your right hip back. So now swing to the right, straighten that left hip leg and draw the left hip back. Swing to the left, straighten that right leg, draw that right hip back. Go ahead, continue for a couple more swings. Feeling this in the obliques inside.
Is ultimately your arm supposed to be totally straight or your elbows slightly bent?
Either are beneficial, but we are trying to get to a straight arm eventually. Slightly bend both knees as you have a little rock. Continue the little rock side to side as you slowly inhale, drawing the chin into the chest, keeping the knees bent as you roll up while you're swinging. When you get to a standing position, shoulders up, round and back. Still, thumb on one side, fingers on the other. You're going to turn your palm out. You slide your hands out. It should be about a V. This will vary depending on your shoulder flexibility. Holding on to the hammock now. So our wrists are going to come forward. Inhale the tailbone back, exhale, reach forward, and let the head hang in between. So this is a shoulder stretch. You will have a slight bend in the elbows probably, and your wrists are forward, and you're holding on. If you don't feel this in the chest and in the breasts, you might need to widen your V. If you feel like your shoulders can roll through and dislocate, then you might need to narrow the V. Ultimately, I want this in your breast, in your chest. Opening the heart, opening the chest, getting circulation in the breast is essential. Soften in the neck, letting the head drop, letting gravity do the work here as you just rest in this deep opening. Putting the breath into anywhere that you find tension. If you want to have a little rock side to side, you can. Always come up a little bit if it's too much on your shoulders. Only go to where it feels like a good stretch. It shouldn't be pinching, and it shouldn't be injuring. Good, on your next inhale, let's bend the knees and round and roll on up to a stand. Exhale, those shoulders around, back and down. Woo. I was just going to say, so that one gets more people high. Did anyone feel a little lightness when you came up? There's many different reasons for it, but it's a really deep opening that's very challenging to get in a lot of floor-based yoga classes. So for a lot of people, it's a first opening, so it's a big flush and rush. It's a deep heart opening, and it really triggers a lot in the brain by opening the chest. And for many people, too, that's where they like to store their tension and their stress. So, yeah, it's where you're here. You're like, it's all fine. What do you mean? Totally fine. Yeah,
great.
You know, yeah.
My employees always know because I walk in and like this.
Yeah. Like, there's
That's
tension
great.
everywhere.
Very happy.
Yeah.
Totally fine. Don't worry.
So it can be a nice release. So always know that when you come up, I actually do a couple less breaths. So same with Mr. Pullet, but how many people are like at this all the time, right? You know, and so what I'm doing is why this intro is these are things that like most everyone can use, and the most advanced yogi is still gonna be like, oh yeah, and the beginner yogi is just like, you know, yeah. Yeah. And then, you know, the cat codes, you guys are really using everything, feeling it all throughout. And the beginner is just kind of like, what the heck is going on here, right? So what I find is that in beginner classes, it's still challenging enough for all levels. Great. So now we're going to unwind. So we're actually going to let go and bring our hands through the center and unwind. And bring the palms facing down. Oh, actually, sorry, we're going to do this. Palms facing in, so we're grabbing on the outside. I'm going to do a standing before we do plank 2. What I also like is that people are like, oh, I'm not a circus performer. I'm like, that was very restorative, right? It's very ground-based. Everyone can do that. I think it's important to remind people of that, too. So now in the center, your feet are in the center, you're going to take a half a step back. This is also depends on your your leg length. You're going to slide your hands down, so there's about a foot of hammock in between. It's usually around your shoulder distance or a little bit wider than your shoulder distance. And you're going to draw attention down. Remember how we never jump into it. And we're going to actually reach forward. The weight is on our feet. Shift your weight over to the right leg as you draw the left knee into the chest. You want to make sure that you can stand on one leg first. If you have clients that cannot do this, you're going to put that foot down, you're going to take a break, we're going to go to the next thing, and maybe we're going to go into Warrior 3. We're not going to go into what I'm going to go into right now, okay? So this is our test, having everyone hold here. Great. Now from here, this isn't always graceful the first couple times. We're actually going to shift over to the right, bend our sitting leg, and bring that left foot in. Good. So this is something that if you have really tight hamstrings can be really challenging. Now to find our center. If you feel like the hammock is pulling you forward, you might need to actually skip forward a little bit. If you feel like it's pulling you back, you might need to skip back a little bit. You want to have control. You want to have all of your weight on your standing leg. Like you could like pull up this. You don't need it in the hammock. Okay? Knee is active, so the kneecap is raised. Hold on with the left hand. Now let's look down, make sure that we're square. Those dancers, you're gonna be all turned out, right?
I
So
was-
just like, try. This is gonna feel really weird. You probably feel like you're totally turned in like this, but you're gonna be square. And then try to drop that left hip. So if the hip is up, you wanna try and drop it. Now we have to square up again. So, well, first off, if it's ever too much on the knee that's in the hammock, you can always slightly bend it. If it's ever too much in your standing leg, you can always slightly bend it. It will also help with stability. From here now, drop that left hip and feel like you're kind of pulling it back. Now we're even more square. Beautiful. Inhale the right hand up. Exhale, keep drawing that left hip back as you pike over with a flat spine. It's more important to have a flat spine than to go down. You can soften in the arms so that fingers are reaching down towards the mat. Of course, they're not touching the mat. Palm is facing in, energy throughout the fingers. You can slide that left hand down as far as you feel comfortable. Relax the neck and make this about the hamstring.
And we're pulling that left hip back, right?
We're always pulling that left hip back to be square. You don't want to pull it back because it causes more, right? But you have to. So the idea is more of that flat spine. If you want to progress this, you can always release that left hand. So now it's more of a balance and a stretch. So you'll feel your stabilizer muscles starting to ignite, finding that center and finding that balance. You can also progress it by flexing that left foot, interlacing the fingers, and pulling the left foot back towards your face.
Woo.
Good, so wherever you're at, let's make sure that our left hand is on the hammock, right hand is nice and soft. And now on your next inhale, slowly draw the navel in and round and roll on up to a stand as you push down energy through your standing leg. And this is where the transition is just as important as the posture. If you just drop into it and just drop back out, it's not going to be good for the body. So starting to make sure that we start cueing on how to enter and exit in a safe way so people aren't falling about. So we were just in this straight kind of place, and the cue was to draw the navel in, pushing down and rooting through your standing legs so you can come and stand up nice and safe. So let's flex the left foot now. Grab one hand on each side, hands at your shoulder height. Flexing the foot, you'll notice that sickle that sometimes the pinky bone doesn't want to go back. You want to flex that pinky bone. All right? If it's too much in your hamstring, you don't need to flex. But if you can withstand it, pull the left hip back. Good. Shoulders down and back. Now open the hammock just gently. Ooh, that makes our leg rise. Draw your left hip back. When you open, let's use the shoulder blades pulling together and back. So we're strengthening the shoulder blades for our posture. Keep the flex, keep the left hip back, and now inhale, chin to big toe, and exhale, holding here for pike and pull. So this is more like the belly is trying to get on the thigh. The wider that you open it, it raises that foot up so you get a deeper stretch. It's more important to flex the foot than to go farther down. So we want to keep it flexed here. Good, and keep pulling the left hip back, even if you don't want to. And now we're getting into the sciatic nerve, the IT band. So the stretch can start to actually become a cardiovascular posture. Inhale, open wider. Exhale. Yeah, thank goodness, right? Okay, so let's bring the hammock now into the arch with them. So we're just doing little bits right now, because these are some of the first things we'll be talking about. You still have your weight on that standing leg, so make sure that you have that stability. The knee is turned out, the toes are flexed to protect the ankle. And now the heel will be about a foot to a foot and a half away from your standing leg. It's a pigeon variation. One hand on each side. Open the hammock just gently. If you have really tight hips like me, you don't really have to open them up very much. If you have really open hips, you might want to open them more, but drawing the shoulder blades together when you do open it. Inhale the tailbone back, and exhale, pike on over. Soften in the neck, so this is about the hips. If you feel comfortable, you can slide your hands down the hammock. If you have really open hips, this actually becomes more of a stabilization posture. If you have tight hips, this is a posture to stretch. So with open hips, you can also try actually shifting your hips forward if you want to, so the weight is coming forward. Keeping the foot flexed, so that's where it becomes a stabilization. You have to keep the hips square as you're shifting forward. For those that have really tight hips, you just breathe. Just breathe. Just breathe. Just breathe. Just breathe.
You'll get
Try
there.
not to pull tension into the shoulders, and try to release any tension that you feel into the hips and soften. It's kind of like a pressure point. It does take a little while. You just have to relax into it. Good. So if you shifted your weight forward, shift your weight back to your standing leg. Then inhale, round and roll on up. Exhale, the shoulders round back and down. We'll get to the top, and then we're going to release the leg. Yeah, you got
So
one
that,
leg
that tricks somebody into getting into a balanced state on their right leg and even stop thinking about the balance because you're so focused on one side.
We're going to talk a lot about this posture because it's actually very hard to cue, and it's completely different. Those that can sit in full lotus without feeling the stretch have a completely different posture that they're going to be doing. And those that have tight hips are just relaxing into it. So yeah, we're going to talk a lot about that. That's why I was saying, if you have open hips, it becomes more of a stabilization posture. And if you are actually stabilization and a pulling back posture. Those that have hypermobility or hyperflexibility, they actually have to pull back a lot because their body will just go too far. So you're going to learn to pull back to strengthen in a safe way. Those with tightness, this is a stretch that actually feels, then the pike and pull is kind of like sciatic nerve, like, hey, that's great. But this stretch should be like, oh, yeah. Those are my technical ways of saying it. All right, so
Get it.
Yeah. You're in the center and about one step back. If any of you had a skip hop back or forth, then you'll kind of know if it's a half a step or not. Shift your weight over to the left side. Draw the right knee into the chest, slide the hands down so you have about a foot of hammock in between. So there's tension. Reaching forward, finding that balance. Bringing the hammock down as low as possible. You can even shift over to the left as you bring that right leg in over the heel. Finding the stability. Making sure all of the weight is on the standing leg. You might want to scoop forward just a little bit. Can you jump forward, a little skippy hop? Yeah, good. And then making sure you're square. Which is probably going to feel really strange. Today I'm going to do a show. Later I'll start assisting. And drawing that right hip back. Holding on with the right hand. Inhale the left hand up. Exhale, draw your right hip back as you pike over with a flat spine. Soften in the neck, soften in the shoulders. Keep the hand active so there's energy out the fingers, palms facing in. Continue to draw your right hip back. Make sure that the knee is active, the kneecap is raised to protect from hyperflexing. If you feel comfortable and would like to progress from here, you can release that right hand. So this causes that balance and that stretch. Working on the stabilization as well as stretching at the same time. Another progression is flexing of that right foot, interlacing the fingers, elbows down towards the mat and pulling the toes back. Keep pulling that right hip back, lengthening through the spine so there's no curve in the spine, a nice long spine. Breathing into any tension. If you progress slowly, reach that right hand back to the hammock. So we all should have our right hand on the hammock, the left hand reaching down towards the mat. On your next inhale, push down for that standing leg, draw the navel in, round and roll on up to a stand. Exhale. We've only done a couple postures, but I've had to explain you how to get in it and out of it. So it takes a long time. You know, later, could you imagine just like bring it into cross, shift down into chair, come into wrist wrap. You can flow into it a little bit faster. But even though we're doing the beginning, you can still feel something. Even as an advanced practitioner, you can still continue to feel. We have to rush this a little bit, which means you guys get a longer class tomorrow in the morning practice. But I want to get into Shavasana right here. So come on up to stand. We only got to the standing postures. We didn't have to do any planks. You guys lucked out. We didn't do any inversions, but let's get back here. If you feel comfortable with it, you can talk with me. Like I could say it, and you guys can repeat, right? Call and response, right? So you're going to find an edge. Walk to the back of the mat. Oh God. So make sure it's completely ungathered, so it unravels and unrolls, and then you're going to wave it side to side. And right, we're doing this to make sure that's open. Yeah. Now reach in and we're going to gather 3 to 5 handfuls. If you're taller, probably 3 handfuls. If you're shorter, maybe 5. Hold on to that gathered fabric with your left hand, and then let's walk to the front of our mat. Good, and now reach behind with your right hand. So now both hands have gathered fabric in the same opening. Gathered fabric in the same opening. Because we don't want them to reach the other side. So same opening, right? Yeah. Now walk back to the center.
Walk back to the center.
Open your arms wider than your hips.
Open your arms wider than your hips.
Good, elbows in, a little.
Find your chicken arms.
Yeah? Good. So now up onto the ball of feet.
To the ball of the feet.
Push down so it covers your bottom.
Push down so it covers your bottom.
Elbows in, shoulders in. Lay back.
Lay back.
Bring your knees up. Bring your knees up. Bring the gather underneath your knees.
Bring the gather underneath your knees.
Reach behind you to that opening.
Reach behind you to the opening.
Good. Grab onto the fabric where your arms are.
Grab onto the fabric where your arms are.
Good. And pull yourself on up to a seated position.
Pull yourself up to seated position.
Arms go out wide as you hug the hammock.
Arms go out wide.
So this is our seated position, and we're going to go into this a lot more, but it is super important. If we were to start to go into inversions right now, if you don't show this, then they don't have a way to rest. And so if someone was in the forward fold and was getting a little dizzy and nauseous today, and they didn't know how to get out or where to go, they might be in it too long, right? So we want to always make sure that people have a place to come and feel comfortable. So this is a really important place. So let's lay on back and grab onto the back of the hammock where our arms are. And now bring your heels into the edge of the hammock. Kick down into the heels so you can straighten your legs. And the fabric should go all the way down and completely cover the legs. If you're not covered, then you might need to bend the knees, push the heels into the hammock as you pull up on the hammock to slide your little way back. So as a teacher, even when I'm teaching an intro class, I get you guys to about here, and then I have to get out because I need to make sure that no one is swinging too much that they're going to hit into other people. And the beauty of doing this, Shelby, can you make sure that no one's hitting anyone either? Yeah. The beauty of doing this over and over is we'll start to learn how to get into the hammock so we're not swinging. And the other beauty of is if you do it the same way over and over, people will start to understand exactly how to do it, and it will just live in their body.